If you're thinking about investing in a safe for your home or your business, you won't want to miss this video. I'm going to try and cover all the main points in the first sort of 4 or 5 minutes of this video, but the video will continue after I've covered the main points, where I'll go into much greater detail about all the things that I'm going to show you about this safe. Okay, so the first thing is this safe comes in 4 different sizes. Number 1, 2, 3 and 4. This is a size 2 that I'm going to look at in detail. And here we have all 4 sizes, which I've put a little number on. So we've got size 1, size 2, size 3 and size 4. And this range of safes have been in production since the early 1990s, and they're made in Italy, and that's the factory. I've been there myself, and they're made by a company called Technomax. And in the UK, they're marketed in 2 ways. They're sold as the Burton Torino safe, and this size 2 would be the Burton Torino 2E from Burton Safes, and they're sold by us, London and Home County Safes, as the Bloomsbury, and this would be the Bloomsbury size 2. So to cover the thumbnail of this video about Which magazine, the Consumer magazine, this is a copy of the magazine where Which tested home safes. And I've printed out the article actually, and it was Burton that provided them one of their safes, but it's the same safe. It's the Technomax. They call it the Torino, we call it the Bloomsbury, and it came out best on test. And I will go into more detail about that later in this video. And here they are in the Technomax catalogue, and this is the Technomax security catalogue, and they are Technomax calling them the Gold Moby Tronny S2 because they're an S2 rated safe. And that means that they are tested and independently certified to EN 14450 grade S2. And what that means is if your insurance company are requiring you to have a safe, then this would be a safe rated for a maximum of either £4,000 in cash or to store £40,000, a maximum of £40,000 of your valuables. Okay, let's try and cover those features as quickly as I can. It's an all steel construction, welded construction. The body is 5mm steel, and the actual front is one slab of 10mm steel that's cut with a laser. So you have a very, very tight gap so that you burglar can't get any tooling in to try and jemmy the door open. The safe is operated with a 6-digit code on this very robust membrane keypad. Most safes just have a kind of chick key button type with a spring keypad that don't last. These don't ever seem to go wrong, these membrane keypads. It's battery operated. The batteries live inside, no need for a main supply, but it also has emergency keys, so you can open it if you forget your code or if the battery goes flat. And no other S2 safe on the market has emergency keys. That includes Chubb, that includes Security, other manufacturers. There's no S2 safe with emergency keys. If something goes wrong with your keypad or you forget your code, you're in big trouble and you're going to need a locksmith to open your safe. These are the keys that come with the safe, unique to each individual safe, and the keyhole is located underneath this sticker here. I'm going to go into detail about all of this stuff in the longer video if you carry on watching. You've got a anti-drill manganese plate behind the 10mm steel door, protecting the vulnerable parts from drilling attack. And one of the really, really important points that this safe has got is the amount of anchoring points, holes that it's got to bolt it down. It's got 4 in the base and 4 in the back, which you just don't get in this type of safe. The most you'll see generally is 2. Sometimes they just have 1 in the base, 1 in the back. I'll spin it around. I've got this one on a Lazy Susan, and show you the back of the safe. There are the 4 fixing holes, and these holes are 12mm in diameter, and the safe comes with a pack of very heavy duty expanding anchors, and that's one of the anchors out of the packet. If I compare those to the anchors that come typically with other safes, you'll see the significant difference, and bolting the safe in is all important. I'm going to go into great detail about that. Each size of safe comes with a removable shelf and the carpet, and I'm going to show you the base fixing holes now. I've taken the shelf and the carpet out, and I can show you, you've got your 4 12mm holes, 2 there and 2 towards the back on the base, and you can just see the rear holes that I showed you already. The only exception to that is the size 1, and that just has 2 fixing holes on the rear and 2 in the base. Because of the size of the safe, it wasn't possible to put more. Okay, I'm going to open the safe up. You press on and then your 6-digit code. This one is just the factory code, 1 through 6. You'll set your own one. You see that little OK light comes on. You have a short time to open the knob and the safe is open. Now you can see the construction of the door. That's that 10mm steel slab that I was talking about. These are the bolts. I'll just throw the bolts out so you can see. These bolts rotate freely, so if someone tries to hacksaw them, they just spin and the hacksaw won't bite. This is the size 2. You've got 2 bolts on the side, one on the top, one on the bottom there. Your batteries live in that little box there. We recommend you change those once a year. This is the button that you slide across and you press when you're setting your own code. We won't go into that just yet. And the bolts lock into these receivers that are welded plates that are welded onto the safe on 3 sides. I don't know if you can see the top one, which makes a very, very robust locking. And on the side, because one of the techniques that are used to open safes is to drill and try and smash the bolts back, you've actually got another hardened plate behind there to make it extremely difficult to drill there. Always best, if you can, to position it in a corner where the safe is going, so that that drilling attack from this side can't happen. These are burglary safes, which is the most common thing. Fire is quite rare, but if you are worried about fire when you're buying one from our website, londonsafes.co.uk, you can pick up a fire resistant wallet, water resistant as well, but you can put inside the safe, put your items inside it and put it inside the safe. If you happen to be in London and the home counties, then it's free delivery and free installation from us. Otherwise, if you're outside of that area, it's just free delivery. We will put the fixing bolts inside so that you can fix it. And we are going to do a full-length tutorial on installation. Okay, I'm not sure how long that's been. Hopefully it's been quicker than I normally am. The video is going to continue beyond this point if you want to see more detail. Our website is londonsafes.co.uk if you want one of these, or if you want to ask me questions. My WhatsApp number is coming up now. You can WhatsApp me directly and I'll answer any questions that you've got. You can show me where you're thinking of putting the safe and stuff like that. And at the time of filming this video, June 2024, we are the highest rated safe company on Trustpilot. I'll cut to a very quick picture now of a couple of safes fitted so that you can see what these safes look like in your home, or in a home if you like. And the main video is going to start now. And now we'll move on to the construction of the safe, how it's made and what it's made from. The front of the safe is made from one piece. So this whole front rectangle is one piece of 10mm thick steel, which is solid steel. This is the rest of it, and it's been cut out with a laser, as I described earlier on in the video. And you can see it's one piece, and the door is actually slightly curved. So it's not completely square like most safes. That's not just an Italian sort of design feature, but it's to make it more difficult for a burglar to try and drive wedges into that gap, which is extremely tight, as I said, which makes it more secure. Ultimately, that improves the security. The body of the safe, which is welded on and then rounded off with grinders, is made of 5mm solid steel. And it's a single wall safe. So it's one single wall. Bit hard to explain what I mean by that. Some safes have a double wall construction. So to show you, this is actually the predecessor to that Chubb black box that was in the witch test. They then moved over and started calling them Secure Line for a while. And this is the digital version. So you have a thinner door at about 7mm thick. And then the walls of the safe are 2mm of steel. And then they put some thermal wool for your fire protection, and then 2mm of steel again on the inside. So it's like a sandwich of wool between two pieces of 2mm steel. Now, these safes are much easier to break into because if you're cutting from the side, let's imagine this isn't this safe, that it's got the 2mm and it's got the thermal wool and another 2mm of steel, or even 2.5mm of steel, adding up to the total 5mm that we've got with the Technomax. It's actually easier to get into them if you're trying to cut or grind a hole into it, because you'll get through that 2.5mm with some work, but you will get through it. Then you'll have to pull out the wool, and then with your grinder, you're going to have to try and cut out again the inner 2.5mm, which is much easier than having to go through 5mm of solid steel. It's much harder on the grinder, much harder on the blades. The blades will give out much quicker, and you'll be changing blades. Bear in mind, you're doing this in your house, which presumably has got a burglar alarm, and there's a burglar in there trying to break into your safe. So these are more secure than the double-walled safes, which is a lot of the competition. If I spin the safe around now, as I say, I've got it on a Lazy Susan because it's quite heavy, it wouldn't turn like this. You can see the construction, so you can see that this piece, the side and the top, are one piece of 5mm steel that's been bent on a bender and then welded to the 10mm front, and then you've got your 5mm back, and it's welded in around there. These welds are excellent. It's all roboticized welding at the factory in Italy, and you've got your 4 fixing holes, as you can see, but we're going to talk about that later. And here you can see your 5mm thick solid steel walls. So that covers the body and the front of the safe and the door. So you've got your bolt work here. As I mentioned, these are free rotating chromium bolts, and the idea of that is that they anti-saw attack protection. I'll throw the bolts out on this one now and show you a different view. And as you can see, you've got 2 on the side and you've got 1 at the top, 1 at the bottom, which means that the door's simply not going to come open by attacking the bolt work. And the door hinge is concealed. It's hidden behind the 10mm steel frontage of the safe, which means that there's no external hinge, because burglars, if they see hinges on the outside, they might try and grind them off. It doesn't get you into more or less any safe, to be honest, apart from some of the cheaper ones that we were looking at. But the hinge is completely hidden, makes the whole thing completely flush, which makes this safe ideal for concealing. So lots of our customers, after we've installed it, have had, let's say if it goes into a cupboard, have had a false panel put in front of it, so that it looks like the cupboard or the wardrobe, so you can't actually see the safe is there. And you can do that because it's completely flush. You can use magnets to latch onto it, fix to your piece of wood, and provide an effective concealment. So the bolts themselves lock into these receivers. So you've got these welded receivers on 3 sides, and the bolts go into these receiver plates. And on the left hand side, the receiver has actually got a plate between the edge of the receiver and the side of the safe. And this is to protect from a side attack. So some attacks on safes will be involved drilling holes or trying to drill holes through the side here, and then trying to, if you imagine, smash those bolts back into the safe, and defeating the safe in that way. So you've got protection from here, but the other protection you've got from that is by installing the safe on a left-hand side. So if you install this in a recess or in a cupboard or something, but this side of the safe is on the left-hand side, like this, you can see that the burglar couldn't get a drill in from the left-hand side to try and attack the safe. It doesn't always make perfect sense for the use of the safe because the door's hinged on the right. So if you're on the left-hand side, you can be in a narrow space. So we do advise our customers of this, but on lots of occasions when we install it, they prefer to have it moved over a bit in the space. But if you move it over a bit so that you can't get a drill in on the left-hand side, then that's okay. But we'll position it wherever the customer wants if we're installing it, but we do advise left-hand side. In addition to the solid 10mm steel door, the vulnerable parts of the lock are also protected by a manganese anti-drill plate. So if a burglar was trying to drill a hole to damage the lock mechanism, they'd struggle because the manganese plate will blunt their drill bits as they're trying to drill through. So Which Magazine is a consumer advice magazine that's on a subscription basis only. This is their promise on the inside of the front cover, which aims to help you choose the best goods and services and avoid the worst. We're entirely independent. We take no ads, no freebies, and everything we test is paid for at the full price. Since 1957, we have informed, influenced, and campaigned for all consumers in the UK. If you're not familiar with Which Magazine, it's excellent. They cover all sorts of things. I mean, in this one, it was baby food and digital cameras and home security and buying flowers online. Financial advice, really, really worth looking at. So they did some expert testing on home safes, and the Technomax, which was supplied by Burton, came out on top as best on test, 85% out of 100. And second came the Chubb Black Box. Interestingly, Chubb safes stopped making that black box about a month after this article came out, because we were selling hundreds of them and then you couldn't get them anymore. That's the complete list. It was 15 safes that they tested. So Burton, some Chubbs, a Phoenix, a couple of Dudleys, a couple of Sentries or 3 Sentries, another Phoenix, a Point safe, an Argos safe, Yale safe, another Burton, and a Detroit safe. And these were the percentage scores. So as you can see up the top, the best 3 was the Technomax supplied by Burton at 85%, and then the two Chubb black box safes. At the time, actually, Burton were calling this the Burton Technomax Torino, and then eventually they dropped the Technomax name. So let's see what they had to say about the Technomax, which, as I said, was supplied by Burton, and it was the best on test with 85%. The Burton is easily the most secure safe we tested. This well-built model successfully passed every trial our experts put it through. We drilled it, hammered it, and tried to wedge open the door with a hammer and chisel, but it wouldn't budge. It's the only model on test that we couldn't get into at all. So you can put your important documents and small valuables in it with confidence. It's well built with heavy-duty steel body, so the average thief will be put off just by looking at it. The only downside is the large and heavy weight means it can take a while to install. Well, we're going to cover that in a bit. But it comes with all the bolts you need and good, clear instructions. It can either be mounted to a sturdy wall or secured to a floor, or both, but we're going to talk about that in detail. I won't read out the whole summary of the Chubb, but the bit that stands out for me is, but it wasn't completely impenetrable. We eventually broke into it with some heavy-duty drilling. Now, this safe, the black box, as I said earlier, I think they stopped making it shortly after this test happened. They have some other products out now, and I've done a comparative video between the Technomax and one of their comparative products, and I'll put a link up to that in the top right-hand corner now if you want to watch that, or maybe circle back to that. I'll put it on the playlist as well, if you want to stick through to the end of this video, and then if you look at the playlist, you'll see it there. So this section on the left is quite interesting, with the title Best Buys. All of the safes on test offered either excellent or appalling security, with none in between. And that really has been my experience. I mean, here's some safes that we've removed and replaced with Technomax safes over the years. I mean, this type of safe, utterly appalling. All of these here, utterly appalling. Really not worth having at all, possibly with the exception of that one down at the bottom with the round keypad. That's a jewel, but they're not made anymore, sadly. This type of fire safe, they're great for fire, but they're really easily broken into. This safe, the Yale, not a bad safe, but we've had reliability issues with the electronics on a number that we sold over the years. This type of safe that lots of people buy, you see them in Costco and places like that, Sentry safe. They're okay for fire protection and in some cases water protection, but they've got virtually no security to them whatsoever. And you can't really screw them down properly because they're not designed to have holes in them, because that breaches the fire issue, or the fire protection. And here's the sort of don't buy list that they provided, which is all that kind of safe that I've just shown you. That I mean, most of these are not even suitable for calling a safe. They're really sort of money boxes, to be honest, but not really suitable for storing your valuables. So that concludes the section on this video about the Which Magazine element of the video. But having said that, the reality of burglary involving safes, as you may have read online in the newspapers, is the safe being removed entirely. Burglars can't really open safes, not this type of safe, on site. Even if they try, they're not going to get it open. They'll try to remove the safe and take the safe to another location where they can work on it in peace and quiet, and try and get it open that way. That's why the installation of the safe is so important. Getting that bit right is so important. So the way we look at it is what we call a primary and a secondary fixing. So the primary fixing can either be through those 4 holes in the back into a solid brick or concrete wall, or through those 4 holes in the base into a solid concrete floor. In an ideal world, there's both. You've got 8 fixings into brick or concrete at the back and concrete in the base. The safe really is going nowhere. But it's quite rare for us to come across those particular scenarios. And in most cases, we're bolting to the brick wall, and that's our primary fixing. And that might be through the back of a cupboard. There might be a panel at the back of a cupboard, for example, and we'll drill through that. Or if you're fixing it, you're going to drill through that. The brickwork is behind, and you drill and insert your anchors and bolt it to that. And then your secondary fixings will be down through the base. So they're not as strong, but they're your secondary fixings because you've already got your primary fixing. And bear in mind, most safes are just bolted down with one single bolt. So you're already significantly stronger than that. And your secondary fixings can just be whatever you can into floorboards, into the base of the wardrobe. They'll all give you extra strength. Now, they might not be an expanding anchor, might just be a wood screw with some washers. So the safe is supplied with these expanding Fisher anchors. Just pop those through the rear fixing holes so you could just get an idea of the sort of depth of engagement that you'd have in your brick wall when you fit it. Now, if you are fitting the safe yourself, if you're buying the safe from us and we're shipping it to you, we'll talk to you about what you're fixing to, and we'll help you with the fixing. So we'll provide you, these come as default. We can either provide you with another set of those, so you'd get 8 of those, or if you're telling us you're bolting it to a concrete floor and fixing to like a wooden panel at the back, then we could give you some wood screws for that and some washers, or vice versa. So we'll tailor the hardware pack to suit your particular installation. We don't charge any extra for that. That's not a problem. So if that was the scenario, or the other way around, you're bolting to the brick wall with these 4 fixings that are going to come with the safe, but your bottom fixing is going to, your secondary fixing is going to be into just the wooden base of the wardrobe, then we provide you with something like this. So 4 wood screws with 4 washers. So bear in mind, these are additional to the main fixing. So the primary fixing is these into brickwork, and these are your fixings, additional fixings, secondary fixings into the wood. So if each screw nicely piloted and drilled into the, I'll just put it in there to get an idea, into the base, will add another, I don't know, 15, 20 kilograms of resistive force. You're adding about another 80 kilograms of resistive force to trying to get the safe out. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to do a full tutorial on how to install these safes. And when it's ready, it will be available in the top right hand corner now. It's not ready at the time of filming this, June 24. It's going to take us a while to do that, but we'll help you. If you're buying one of these, we'll assist you. Talk to us, show us pictures on WhatsApp. Here's my WhatsApp number of where you've got in mind for it to go and what the surfaces are, and we will assist you by sending the appropriate fixings. So now we're going to move on to the operation of the safe, how to use it, and the features that it's got. Now I'm going to move on to how you use the safe, the keypad, batteries, and the features that the safe's got. So as mentioned, the safe is battery operated. The batteries live on the inside of the safe door. I'll show you that. You don't need a mains power supply or anything like that for the safe. So the code that you'll set is going to be between 6 and 10 digits. The factory code is 123456. I'm going to go ahead and open the safe now. So currently it's locked. So you simply press the on button and then your code. And then the E. You'll see the OK light comes on, and you have a limited time to turn the knob. If you don't turn the knob while that light's on, you'll have to put the code in again. The safe is now unlocked. Now you can open it simply pulling the door. Simple as that. And to close the safe, you just shut the safe door and turn the knob back to that horizontal position, and the safe is now locked. In addition to the OK light, there's 3 other LEDs that you can see there. One is code. That comes into play when setting your new code. We have a separate video for that. Error, if you make an error entering the code. I'm going to show you that now. And battery. I'll also explain that in a sec. First, let's cover error. I'm going to deliberately enter an incorrect code now. Let's see what happens. So always got to press on, and I'll enter, instead of 123456, I'll enter 123457. And then when we press enter, we get that error light that blinks, and then in a few seconds it will show the error again. I'll just pause until it does that. I'll keep still rather. There you are. If you've done that, you just want to enter the code correctly and you'll be fine. As you can see, it does open with the correct code. So if you forget your code, then that's where the emergency keys come into play. And as I mentioned earlier, other safes don't come with these emergency keys, and this is a lifesaver. So to demonstrate, I've forgotten my code, and typically this seems to happen when people come back from holiday. We get the phone call, can't remember my code, and we go, remember the keys? Oh yes, I've got those around at my sister's house. Go and get the keys, open the safe, easy. E there, that's the secret keyhole for the emergency keys. I'm doing this while holding the camera in one hand. You just need to peel that back. I just use a little sharp knife and that will just open like that. It's just self-adhesive. We've set that to one side. The safe is still locked, so we're going to take our key and insert it into the lock. It goes in almost all the way like that, and then we turn the key until it stops, and now the safe can be unlocked. And if necessary, at this point, you can reset your code following the instructions that we provide. And that method can also be used if your batteries happen to go flat, but there is another method of opening it if the batteries go flat that doesn't involve the keys. I'm going to go through that shortly. So the batteries live inside this little door here on the inside of the safe. We do all of this if we're supplying and installing it for you. If you're in our service area, we do all of this. Otherwise, it will come with the batteries fitted if you're having it delivered. And we do have a full unboxing video that we can show you as well. In case of removing that little crosshead screw. So I've removed that screw, and you then just pull this little plastic door off, and that reveals your battery carrier. And all but the smallest size use 4 AA batteries. We recommend industrial. And when we ship them to you or install it, that's what will be installed. And you want to be changing those batteries once a year as a rule of thumb. So what I'm going to do now is demonstrate that other method of opening the safe in case the batteries have failed. And to do that, I'm going to disconnect the battery box. I've done that a bit off camera because it's hard to hold the camera and do that at the same time. So now there's no batteries in the safe at all. I'm going to go ahead and lock the safe. And now the safe will not open and it will not respond to any codes because there's no batteries. Oh, by the way, it will warn you. That's what the battery light is for. I didn't cover that one, did I? So as the battery is getting low, when you operate your safe, it will show you a little blip on that battery light indicating that it's got low. You want to be changing the battery at that point. But you'll see here this minus and plus. Can you see that minus and plus? Well, that corresponds to the minus and plus on a regular 9-volt battery. Okay, I definitely need 2 hands for this, so I've set the camera down and I'm going to demonstrate how you open it using the external battery source. You can buy these batteries anywhere, by the way. You're just going to simply line up the plus and the minus, the big and the small, and the minus and the plus rather, and press that against the 2 terminals. Now you've got power, and you want to keep pressing that the whole time. Enter your code, press E, and then turn the knob, and then you can release the battery, and the safe is unlocked, as you can see. So it's an absolutely brilliant system, being able to power the circuitry from outside or open it with an emergency key, which is just not getting on the competitor safes. The keypad itself is a membrane type keypad rather than a spring-loaded chick type button. Is that the right word? I'm not sure. And they're extremely reliable. We've never had one go wrong. We've been selling them approaching 30 years. And we've never had a single one fail on us, the keypad or any aspect of this safe, actually. It really is an ultra-reliable, ultra-secure safe for all the features that I've pointed out. So now let's have a look at the sizes. So initially what I'll just do is just show you each safe before I go into the actual details of the dimensions next to a piece of A4 paper. So that's the size 1 with a piece of A4 paper. Oh, what does that say? Oh, buy your safe from londonsafes.co.uk. How did that get there? And then the size 2 with your A4 piece of paper. And A4 will go in all of them, including the smallest one. And the size 3, which is wider, as you can see. And then finally the size 4. Another useful sort of visual comparison with an object that a lot of people will recognise, standard size football. So that's the football in front of the size 1. Some people don't want to get right into the weeds of the measurements, but I'm going to go into them anyway. But just as a visual guide, that's what the football looks like next to the size 1 and next to the size 2. As I say, just a visual reference. And the size 3. All of these will fit in standard size wardrobes, by the way. No problem at all. And finally in front of the size 4. There is one other size that we don't regularly sell. We call it the jumbo. It's a bit bigger than these, but it is on the website. I'm not going to go into that one because it's quite large. Okay, so the dimensions. This is the size 1, and I'll do the metric and then the imperial. So height, width, depth, 220 by 350 by 300. And your Imperial is 8.7 inches tall by 13.8 inches wide by 11.8 inches deep. These are the external dimensions. Your size 2 in metric is 280 by 400 by 350. That's height, width, depth. And in Imperial, that's 11 inches high by 15.7 inches wide by 13.8 inches deep. And your size 3 in metric, 350 high, 470 wide, 350 deep, that's millimeters. And your Imperial is 13.8 inches high by 18.5 inches wide by 13.8 inches deep. And your size 4 in metric, 490 high by 430 wide by 400 deep, that's millimeters. And Imperial is 19.3 inches high by 16.9 inches wide by 15.7 inches deep. Size 1 weighs 26 kilograms and has an internal capacity of 16 litres. Size 2 weighs 37 kilograms and has an internal capacity of 30 litres, almost double that of the size 1. Size 3 weighs 44 kilograms and has an internal capacity of 45 litres. And your size 4 weighs 62 kilograms and has an internal capacity of 68 litres. Right, I'll just open all the doors and then we'll look at what sort of things will fit inside. Let's start with our A4 piece of paper, and inside the safe there is the little bag that's got the emergency keys and the user guide. So I'm going to put this on. Each safe comes with a removable shelf, not repositionable. It's either there or not there, really easy to take out. Let's pop that in, and that's your A4 paper inside there, and I'll do the same in the size 2. In the size 2, as you can see, you've got a lot more room in the size 2. As I said, almost double the capacity for not a lot more money. The size 3 getting quite a bit bigger, and you've got quite a lot of room to the left and the right of that bit of paper. And finally the size 4, tons of room. So I've got an A4 folder, and I can tell you now it's not going to fit in the size 1, it's not going to fit in the size 2, but it will fit in the size 3, and it will definitely fit in the size 4. This is a very large old Toshiba laptop that my son did his best to try and break when he was at university, and he wasn't able to. Won't fit in the size 1, won't fit in the size 2. It's in the size 3, no problem at all. As you would expect, it's swimming in the size 4. An iPad fits in all of them. I'll just put it in the size 1. I think you get the idea. This is your luxury type watch box. You'll get 4 of those into the size 1. This is the size 1. I popped it in there. So you'd get 4. I mean, you might get more, but I think if it's a Rolex type box 4, probably removing the shelf would be sensible if you are just going to store those in there. You get 6 of those in the size 2, maybe a couple more, a bit of a tight squeeze. 8 or 10 of those in the size 3, and probably in the region of 20 in the size 4, depending how you stack them in there. Purchases for watches, luxury watches, has gone right up because insurance companies are insisting that they're in safes. Also handbags. So if you are looking at handbags, I'd only really think about the size 4 or a push to size 3, but you'd get 2/3 good handbags with the shelf removed in the size 4. Just 1 in the size 3 with the shelf removed. So one frequently asked question is, what if I move home once we've installed the safe? It's very easy to unbolt the safe. Obviously, the safe door needs to be open so the burglar can't unbolt it. And you'll see under the carpet your hexagonal bolts also on the back if we've bolted it to the wall. And it's a case of unbolting these with like a ratchet set, like a mechanic's ratchet set like this, until the bolts come out. And they'll either be a 17mm socket or a 19mm socket. Or if we've used screws, then it will be a Posi-Drive number 2 screwdriver down on the base, and most likely 17 or 19mm on the back bolted to the wall. Just undo those and the safe is free. And then the safe can be transported by you or your removal company to your new location, and you can talk to us about reinstalling. Get in touch. And here's my WhatsApp number. I'll put that on screen now. And we can quote you to reinstall it and recertify it for you. While we're talking about size, one of the questions that comes up quite a lot is people say, oh, is it like a hotel safe? So I've actually got a hotel safe here. This is an L safe by Assa Abloy. This is the most common hotel safe in use in the world. If you've stayed in a hotel, you've almost certainly used one of these. And I've got it next to our size 2 Bloomsbury. I won't go into the exact dimensions, but you can get the idea from that. I'll put the football there now as well. There it is with my football on top. And as a rule, hotel safes are not very tall. They're quite wide and quite deep. And I think that's because they think everyone wants to put a laptop in a hotel safe. But really that isn't the case anymore. People don't tend to travel with laptops like they used to. Perhaps they'll travel with a tablet, but a laptop, it's quite unusual now. So there you can get an idea of the comparison between the two. And from the top as well. So our size 2 would be the closest to the hotel safe in terms of dimensions. So in this next section, I'm recording my computer monitor, and apologies for the change in audio quality, but I'm going to show you a few installations that we've carried out. So this is a safe that we installed. This is a size 1 Bloomsbury that's fitted in the base of a wardrobe on this raised plinth. And as I mentioned before, with the size 1, you've got just the 2 rear fixings, which is more than many, and that's bolted through. We've drilled through that rear panel, picked up the brick wall behind, and our expanding anchors are in there. And there's also 2 fixings down into the base, 2 wood fixings down into the base, and there isn't enough room to the left of the safe to get a drill in, as I mentioned earlier, for that drilling attack. I'll show you another picture of that with the door shut, and that's the same job with the door shut. The customer was very, very happy. Here we've got a size 2 Bloomsbury bolted to the wall, and you can just about see the 2 lower bolts. The top 2 bolts are in shadow, bolted to the wall, and also fixed to this plywood shelf that the customer put in, because there wasn't a shelf there, because they wanted some space underneath and they wanted it raised up slightly. I'll show you again with the door shut, and that's the same job with the door shut there. Here's a size 3, and this is in the base of a sort of existing cupboard. No raised plinth, so it's fixed with wood screws down into the base there, into the floor, and you've got your 4 fixings into the wall here. Again, the top one's in shadow, you can't see them, but your expanding anchors. And there it is with the door shut. We actually trimmed that shelf for the customer so the safe would fit in snug and they'd still retain this little bit of shelf there. And again, over to the left hand side to protect the left hand side of the safe. Here we've got a size 3 that's gone into an airing cupboard. We like airing cupboards because once you put your blankets and things like that on these shelves and then put some stuff in front of this one, the burglar will never see the safe. And that was bolted directly to the brick wall because it was just plaster straight through into the brick wall. And it's sort of quite a high level, which is where the customer wanted it to go. And again, no possibility of drilling from the left hand side. Another size 2. Sitting on a raised shelf in a built-in cupboard. These shelves have only got little plastic shelf supports, but they only need to take the weight of the safe while we're installing it. Once we bolt it through onto the wall, the weight of the safe is taken up by the bolts that we install. Here we have a size 4 that went into a little niche, neat and tidy. And there it is with the door shut, and then that little cupboard door would close in front of it. Here's a size 3 in a little niche in a fitted office type of thing. Here's a size 4 which has gone into some purpose-made joinery. So the client liaised with us and we liaised with their joiner, and they made this niche almost exactly the right size. You need a little bit of tolerance, but I think we allowed about 5mm each side. And then the safe went in, and then I believe there was another cover that went over it to conceal its existence. Another size 3 which is on the left hand side in a little L-shaped wardrobe. This is a size 3 key locking, just in a office area. This is a size 3 key locking safe, this one, in a office. You can see the keys there, so you can see the absence of the keypad like the other videos we've been looking at. You've just got the keys on this one. Old school. Here we've got a nice size 1 in a little niche in some fitted cupboards. Here's another view of that. Hopefully that's given you an idea of where you might be able to fit the safe in your home. This will finish off with this one. This is a size 1 on top of a chest of drawers, a built-in chest of drawers. Inside a cupboard you can see some garments hanging on the right hand side there, bolted through into the wall and fixed to the top of the chest of drawers. Now I'm going to talk about fire resistance, because this comes up from time to time, and the Bloomsbury isn't a fire safe, it's a burglary safe. It has very little fire resistance, only insofar as it's a metal box, and it will take a bit of energy to heat the contents up and incinerate them. Here's a typical fire safe by Sentry Safe, and you'll see others by different manufacturers. This one's been in the wars. We took it out of a property. I don't know if it was in a flood or something. But these are not burglary safes. They have no intrinsic resistance to burglary whatsoever, whereas this safe has a great deal of intrinsic resistance to burglary. If you wanted a safe that's both a burglary safe and a fire safe, it's not going to be in the consumer price bracket. You're going to be looking at something that's incredibly large and heavy and very, very expensive. Some safe retailers and manufacturers will add some sort of, token fire resistance to their specification, and it doesn't really exist. If there's no testing, then it isn't fire resistant. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll simply just add a sealing strip around the door to a regular safe like this, and so that the door seals against it, and if there's a fire, the strip expands and seals the front of the door, and they'll suddenly say that's got half-hour rating or 1 hour rating. Well, we could do the same thing here if we wanted, but it isn't honest, so we don't do that. They're not fire resistant, but we do have these fire resistant wallets that will go inside the safes. So if you wanted to put they're water resistant as well. If you wanted to put your valuables or paperwork inside this wallet and then close it and put it inside the safe, there's two sizes. We'll ship you the size that's appropriate for the safe that you've ordered. You can add that on at checkout, and then you have the benefit of and obviously put it in the safe. You'll have the benefit of the burglary resistance from the Bloomsbury and the fire resistance from the fire and water retardant wallet. So we're getting towards the end. If you have stayed with me so far, well done. I know it's not the most interesting of videos. Put a comment, please, and say that you stayed till the end. I'd be fascinated to see that. I'm going to try to up my video content in the coming months, put out a few more videos. So please like and subscribe if you'd like to see more of this sort of thing. And don't forget, you can get in touch. If you've got questions, you can talk to me most of the time. Just ask for David. It's londonsafes.co.uk. That's our phone number. This is my WhatsApp number that I'm putting up, so you can literally WhatsApp me directly and ask questions. Just message me on the WhatsApp. This is us in Welham Green in Hertfordshire, head office and warehouse. If you want to come and see us, make an appointment, get in touch. And thank you very much for watching.